Hey guys, got a really fun game to share with you that I played this morning. Played two games against this guy from the US, username Pursuit of Mastery, which is nice to hear. Yeah, we played two games, lots of chat, very interesting player. Says he's stuck around 1200 and doesn't really know how to break through and grow beyond. And actually, what I found with the two games that we played, this is the first of the two. The second was actually much more solid and went down to quite a tactical ending. This one is mad, very sharp. I felt like I was playing a stronger player than just 1200. You know, that was my experience anyway. So what he said himself was that his biggest issue is impatience. And I think that did show a little bit maybe in our second game where I won on the ending. So sometimes maybe trying to kind of force the issue, sometimes when what you need to do is bed down and sometimes be boring. But anyway, this game, not boring. So go through this with me. So I've got the white pieces. We've got e4, c5, the Sicilian. Play knight f3, knight c6, and b3, this kind of Snyder variation, and e5, bishop to b2 is the idea. I've got two attackers now on this pawn. So we have queen c7 to defend the pawn, and bishop to c4, just starting to pay our attentions to the f7 square. And now it looks like he's going to fianchetto to his other bishop. So I bring my knight in now, eyeing up f7, and this is an issue now for black. I guess he does have a discovered defense with by moving the d pawn. The queen would then defend that, but still it's not good enough. The queen's not going to recapture. So pretty much knight to h6 is kind of forced. And now queen to f3. So that's now a third attacker on here. And now, you know, it is more of a problem for black. So black is now forced to push the f pawn all the way to f5. I capture, knight captures. So now the king, you know, the king's chances of castling kingside are hopeless. If he's going to get safe, he's going to have to go that away. So now I come in with my bishop with check. Now the king has to move, so there's no castling now. So I'm feeling pretty comfortable already at this point. Knight to c3, developing move, and clearly there is a threat, a mega threat of a royal fork on their majesties right there. So my opponent spots the threat and plays knight b4, defending that square. I now decide to castle long, because just leave the threat hanging. It's okay. Sometimes you don't need to force the issue. And now this was a good move. So bishop comes out attacking the knight, and this is the principle, this is the tactic called remove the defender. So by attacking the knight, what black's trying to do is either get the knight to move away, which undefends this bishop on f7, or the bishop will capture the knight. So even if I say recapture with the pawn, still lose the bishop on f7. So what do you do in this situation? There's always lots of options when you are faced with an attack. Well, usually lots of options. One of them is the counterattack. So I play pawn to a3, and this creates a big issue now. So if bishop takes a knight, I can grab the knight there, and then this is now on. Okay, so what happens is the bishop does grab the knight, and now I retreat my bishop away, because this is what I figure, right? This knight can't move. This knight can't go anywhere other than like a2, in which case it gets captured, right? Or because it's the only defender, only protector of that d5 square. So I can simply now just retreat my bishop to safety. I am a piece down, but I'm either going to win this knight or I'm going to get my royal fork in. So what we have is the queen moves to get out of the fork. Now the queens are now staring at each other, and we have some tension on the board. So first I grab the knight, and pawn recaptures. And now my knight comes in anyway with check. Knights like to be getting up close and personal with the opponent's king. So this is clearly the knight's under threat. So d5 is a good square, comes with check, forcing move. King retreats. And now bishop takes e5. So I'm now attacking this rook over in the corner. And it's looking very, very, very good for white at this point. But my opponent does find some quite evil threats coming up. Okay, so we have g4, kicking that knight away, and a counterattack, another counterattack. So counterattacking now on my bishop. I can't capture with the bishop because he's got knight takes, and that's one big issue. So bishop retreats to g3, and we have b5 attacking my other bishop. So he's really coming at me, this guy. Bishop drops back now to e2, because we've got an issue as well here, which is that my queen on f3 is currently undefended. So should this knight move anywhere at any point, unless it comes with check, which it can't, so basically the knight is pinned against my queen. Right? Knight can't move, because then queen takes queen, and it's game over. So after b5, I decide to drop my bishop down here to e2, where at least it means the queen is defended. So this knight is now no longer pinned. Also the knight's threatening b4. Now the queen comes around here. So we'd already said in the chat that although material is actually equal, it doesn't feel that way in the game. You have to notice as well, this bishop hasn't moved yet, and this rook is still not showing any interest in the game. But this is cheeky. I mean, this is a threat of mate in one. Queen a1 would be checkmate. So I slide my king across to b1. And this is where this dark squared bishop and the queen really start to cause me some headaches. So I know, I mean, I saw this, that there's a threat of the bishop coming here, also then targeting the a1 square, allowing the queen to come in, and it would be curtains then for my king. Of course, this square is covered by my knight currently. So when I see the bishop drop back to h6, I think, what is my opponent trying to do with this move? What's his intention? Well, clearly he wants to come here and again cover the a1 square for the queen to come in and tear my throat out. So I grab the knight here because I figure I've actually got time, because if the bishop now comes here, I've even got, for example, f6 to block the bishop's path. Black now plays bishop to b7, now targeting my knight. Okay, so we have an issue. The knight is only defended by the queen here, but the knight can't move, and the knight is also, well, the knight no longer has to protect this square, but it is trying to protect the pawn that moves to f6. So what I do is I play my queen to d3 just to get out of the pin, and I figure that if, for example, bishop takes, queen takes, bishop to here, I do have other options to defend myself, for example. So the bishop now comes out now, and that gives me the chance to play f6. I think maybe taking the knight first and then playing this might have been better for black. But now I can get the f6 move in. Now, even if the bishop were to capture my knight and even attack this, I can now capture the bishop and counter-attack black's rook as well. So we have rook takes the pawn. Okay, and now, instead of trying to... because I could capture the rook here, but then I lose my rook, yeah? But here, bishop to h4 pins the rook. So now the rook is absolutely pinned. It cannot legally move anywhere. So we have bishop takes knight, queen takes bishop, and king now moves across. So the rook is mine if I want it at this point. The pin has been broken, but I could grab it. Instead, I throw in an in-between move, and here's where you see the power of the bishop pair. When you get them adjacent in the endgame, it creates this double diagonal that the king cannot get through. Okay, so the king has to move, and now I grab the rook, bishop takes. So now I'm up an exchange and No, I'm up a rook. I'm up a rook for a pawn at this point in time. But here, you see, again, bishop takes there renews the threat of the shock queen a1 mate. So here I think d4 would be playable. I actually play my queen down to f7 with check, and this is a fork on the king and the bishop. So that's a really, really good way. There is no more forcing move than a check, because your opponent must get out of check on their very next turn, right? So it doesn't matter if you've got mate in 1. If you're in check, no good. You've got to get out of check. So the king has to move. Now I could have just grabbed the bishop straight away, but this is actually a skewer on the king and the rook. So the king moves again. Now I grab the bishop, and the rook's hanging. My opponent here resigns. But very interesting, all these the ways that black found to threaten this vulnerability. So when you're thinking about chess, you can think of it, you can use the SWOT analysis, which is like a project management thing where you say, okay, what are our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? So black here identified a weakness for white, got his queen onto the A file there, and very, very cleverly managed to, maintain this threat with this bishop. And I really did have to think pretty hard in this game to avoid getting, completely spanked out of nowhere. So I thought it was very well played. Our second game, a lot more positional, and it was just a grind. But this one, a whole heap of fun. So yeah, good shout out to a new chess.com friend, Pursuit of Mastery. He wants to grow beyond 1200, and I think on the basis of what I've seen, he's definitely got the talent to do it. So yeah, very enjoyable game. Hope you've enjoyed it too. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to Chess Bootcamp if you haven't subscribed, and I'll see you later.